Hello, Grade 8. So today we're quickly going to look at what you can expect for your exam, June exams, for natural science. So before anything, you need to know your exam instructions so that you can and don't lose any marks. So you need to read each question at least twice. Section A will test a wide range of small topics, and Section B will ask for longer explanations and drawings. So let's see what you should know. You need to know the inputs and outputs of photosynthesis, like water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight. And you need to know CO2 is carbon dioxide and how glucose and oxygen is formed through photosynthesis and the respiration. For respiration, you need to know how glucose is broken down into small cells to release energy and also learn the link between these two processes. So I don't go into lots of detail about this, but basically you need to go into your textbook and go look for all these tips I'm giving you at this moment. Here you can see the chemical equation that is happening through photosynthesis and and respiration. You need to know this. You need to know 6 carbon dioxides plus 6 waters can be turned into by the process of photosynthesis into glucose and oxygen. And you need to know when glucose that it is 6 C's, 12 H's, and 6 O's. So basically, 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens, plus another 6 oxygens. And then you need to know how the cell respiration is taking place. You need to know this block very, very well. Okay, so ignore that previous slide. So let's talk about how energy moves through nature. So everything begins with the sun, which gives us energy to the plants. These plants are called the producers because they make their own food using sunlight through a process called photosynthesis. Next, animals called consumers eat these plants or other animals to get the energy. For example, a rabbit eats the grass and a fox might eat the rabbit. This sequence from plants and animals is called a food chain. But in a real ecosystem, animals eat many things. So we can get a food web. And that's why we get food chains when only one cycle occurs. But when everything eats everything, it's called a web. And it gets more complex network of interconnected food chains. So a food web is lots of food chains mixed together. And then finally, decomposers like fungi and bacteria breaks down dead plants and animals, returning nutrients to the soil, which will help plants grow again. So you have to remember as energy passes up the chain, some is lost as heat or less energy is available at higher levels. So basically, what this means is plants, the producers, will have the most energy, and as the food chain goes on and on and on, that animal sweats, so that takes up energy. That animal moves, that also takes up energy. So the higher the food chain goes, the less energy there is because the previous animals used some of that energy. So let's look at adaptation. So adaptation helps organisms survive in an environment. So adaptation is how did an animal or a plant change to fit into its uh, environment. So we get types, so we get mimicry, camouflage, hibernate, and migration. Camouflage is when blending in to avoid predators or sneak on prey. Mimicry is when an animal or a plant looks like another species for protection. Hibernation is a deep sleep during cold months to save up energy, and migration is moving long distances for better conditions. Like, for instance, birds move from one place to another to avoid winters. You need to know all these keywords. So let's quickly look at the adaptation of a cheetah. So a cheetah is a predator and he adapts through a few ways. So its body, the cheetah has a slim, weight body with long legs, which helps it run very fast, making it the fastest land animal. This helps to catch prey very easily. So if it didn't have this light body and long body, it couldn't run so fast. The cheetah's claws are only semi-retractable, um, so it can grab onto the animal easier as well as to climb trees easier. The tail is long tail, acts as a rudder to help it balance and steer while running so quickly during a chase. So if it wasn't for its tail, it didn't have the balance to run as accurate as it runs at this moment. The muscles are powerful leg muscles that helps it sprint and run quicker. So the adaptation that he goes through is for saving time, getting its food, surviving, as well as staying safe because it helps to climb the trees. So why the adaptations are important? They help the cheetah to survive by catching enough food, and they help the cheetah to avoid injuries and competition with other animals and predators. Okay, the adaptation of a polar bear, the giant of the Arctic. The polar bear survives in one of the coldest places on Earth, and that's because they have some incredible adaptations. Remember, adaptation is when the animal's body changes to survive at a certain environment. So first look at their thick white fur. It keeps them warm in freezing temperatures and helps them to blend into the snow and ice so they can sneak up on the prey. Underneath the fur, they can have a thick layer of fat called the blubber. The blubber is like a built-in winter coat that keeps their bodies warm and protects them from the icy waters when they swim. Polar bears have huge, strong paws, perfect for walking on slippery ice and swimming long distances in the freezing oceans. Their paws are also covered with small bumps and grooves to give them extra grip on the ice. Their sharp claws and strong teeth help them to catch and eat seals, which are their main food source. Polar bears are excellent swimmers too. They can swim for 4 hours to a hand or move between ice floes. So they can swim for very, very, very long time. All these adaptations, like the thick fur, the blubber, the big paws, the sharp claws, everything about the adaptation of a polar bear helps the polar bear to survive and thrive in their icy homes. So, when you think of the polar bear, remember it's not just a big white bear, it's perfectly adapted to hunt built for one of those in tough environments on Earth. So camels are the next one that we are learning about that is adapting. So camels live in one of the hardest environments, the hot, dry desert. But don't worry about them, they are built for it. Let's start with the most famous part, the hump. Many people think it's full of water, but actually it is stored fat. When there's no food or water, the camel's body uses the fat in the hump to survive. So there's no water in the hump, it's a fat, but that releases the nutrients the camel needs when they can't get food and water. Um, Camels also have thick fur to protect them from the sun. during these days and to keep them warm at nights because believe it or not, the desert gets freezing at night. They also have tough skin on their knees so they don't burn when they kneel to and on the hot sand. So they basically have like a hard it looks like leather on their knees. So if they touch the hot sand, they won't burn. Their long legs keep their bodies far from the burning sand, and their wide padded feet helps them walk without sinking into the soft desert sand. So it's basically like built-in sand shoes. What about sandstorms? Camels have long eyelashes and eyebrows to protect their eyes from blowing sand in the they can even close their nostrils to keep the sand out of their noses. So basically, because of their eyelashes and noses that can close properly, they can survive sandstorms. And guess what? A camel can go without water for days, even weeks. They walk slowly and carefully to save energy and water. All these incredible features humps, strong legs, thick fur, amazing eyes, and nose are adaptation that helps camels survive in deserts. So the next time you think deserts are too harsh, just remember a camel, the ultimate desert survivor. So let's quickly look at adaptation for plants. So a little plant that is known as to survive heat is the aloe, also known as a xerophyte. Think zero means zero is nothing, so very almost no water is needed here. Xerophytes are plants that are specially adapted to live in dry, hot areas like the desert. Let's start with the aloe's thick, fleshy leaves. So you need to know for the taste, you need to know the aloe. So these leaves store water like a built-in tank. So the plant can survive long dry periods without rain. The aloe also has a waxy layer on its leaves. This waxy coating helps to stop water from evaporating too fast, like sunscreen for the plant. Its leaves are small or shaped like spikes, which means there is less surface area for the water to escape. Even its roots are smart. They grow shallow and wide, so quickly soak up any water from rain before it disappears into the dry sand. Because remember, the aloe is normally also in the desert. And if you look closely, you'll see the tiny holes on the leaves called the stomata. These close during the days when it's hot and open at night when it's cooler. So the plant doesn't lose too much water. So, with water storing leaves, the waxy skin, the clever roots, and the close stamina, the aloe is a real desert champion. That's what makes the xerophyte a plant that adapted to survive in the dry, harsh conditions. You need to know all these adaptations that the aloe had to survive. So the water lily is next. It's just a beautiful, it's also super smart when it comes to surviving in water. So hydrophytes, hydro means water. So this is plants that live in water. So that's because it's a hydrophyte. A plant that lives in water, as I just said, is they are in very wet places. Now let's talk about what makes the water lily so special. First, look at its big flat leaves. These leaves float right on the top of the water. Why? Because they need sunlight for photosynthesis. And by floating, they can soak up as much sun as possible. Inside those leaves are air spaces, like little bubbles. These make the leaves light so they don't sink. It's like a plant has a built in floaty. Next, take a look at the stamina, the tiny holes plants use to breathe. On most land plants, the stamina are the bottom of the leaf, but not the water lily. Its the stamina are at the top, so they don't get blocked by water. That way, the plant can still take in carbon dioxide and let out oxygen. What about the stem? The water lily has a long bendy stem that moves gently with the water. Since the water helps support the plant, the stem doesn't need to strong and stiff like a land plant, so it can float with the water. And finally, the roots. Water lilies grows their roots in mud at the bottom of the pond, but those roots are mainly there to anchor the plant in one place. They don't absorb a lot of water like normal roots because, well, the plant is already surrounded by water. So, just a recap: floating leaves, air spaces, stamina on the top, soft stems, and the anchoring root. Is all these are clever adaptations that help the water lily survive and thrive in watery worlds. And you need to know all these are adaptations of the water lily, the hydrophyte. So let's start with camouflage. So we get camouflage and mimicry. This is also adaptations for animals and plants to survive. So have you ever tried to hide during a hide and seek by wearing the same colors as the couch? That's kind of camouflage. Some animals can blend in with their surroundings so well that you can barely see them. A chameleon, for example, can change its color to match the leaves or branches. A lion's fur is the same color as the dry grass where it hunts, helping it sneak up on its prey without being seen.